Brent Spiner has only played TNG's original Data twice since Star Trek Nemesis. When Star Trek Nemesis premiered in 2002, it was meant to serve as the swan song for the Next Generation crew. For Brent Spiner, the actor behind the beloved android LT, Commander Data, the film was more than a conclusion, it was a farewell. In the movie's climax, Data sacrifices himself to save Captain Picard and the crew of the Enterprise E, providing one of Star Trek's most emotional send-offs. That scene was supposed to mark the definitive end of Data's journey. But if there's one thing more persistent than Starfleet's optimism, it's the resilience of fandom and their refusal to let icons like Data fade quietly into the nebula. While Brent Spiner has returned to Star Trek in various forms over the years, a closer look reveals a surprising truth. Since Nemesis, Spiner has only played the original Data, the golden-skinned, emotion-seeking android we knew from TNG, exactly twice. And both appearances came with significant caveats. The legacy of a singular character. Data is, without a doubt, one of the most iconic characters in science fiction history. Created to be emotionless yet deeply curious about humanity, Data embodied many of Star Trek's most essential themes: identity, growth, sentience, and the search for meaning. Spiner's performance was central to that portrayal. Balancing robotic detachment with subtle warmth, he made Data feel simultaneously alien and endearing. Over 7 seasons and 4 films, Spiner explored nearly every facet of the character, from slapstick his attempts at humor to tragedy his desire to be human, from innocence to insight. By the time of Nemesis, Spiner had aged out of the role slightly, at least in his own opinion. He was 53 when the movie was filmed, and felt that the ageless android Data couldn't convincingly be portrayed by someone visibly aging. That sentiment would shape Spiner's Star Trek journey post-Nemesis. 1. A virtual return. Star Trek Picard Season 1. It would take nearly 2 decades for Brent Spiner to play the original Data again, and even then, it came with a twist. In 2020 Star Trek, Picard debuted on Paramount+, bringing back Patrick Stewart as the former captain in a series set decades after the events of Nemesis. The first season, steeped in themes of mortality, grief, and legacy, directly dealt with Data's death and its lingering emotional toll on Picard. In the finale of Season 1, titled Et in Arcadia Ego, Part 2, Picard dies and awakens in a simulation created from Data's memories. It's here, in a hauntingly serene afterlife, that the two characters finally reconcile. Brent Spiner, de-aged slightly with CGI, plays Data in a way we hadn't seen since 2002, calm, thoughtful, and ready to embrace death. This wasn't an action-packed return. It was philosophical. In one of Picard's most moving scenes, Data asks Picard to terminate the simulation, allowing him to finally die, to experience the one element of humanity he was never granted: mortality. This scene was a masterstroke of thematic closure. It allowed Spiner to revisit the character meaningfully without pretending he hadn't aged. Instead, the moment leaned into a dreamlike, symbolic presentation. In many ways, it was the perfect epilogue for Data and for Spiner's original portrayal. But it was fleeting and not quite real. Data existed in a digital construct, not the physical world. Still, it counts. This was the first time Spiner truly played Data again post-Nemesis. 2. A final mission. Star Trek Picard Season 3. In Picard Season 1, Spiner also played Altan Inigo Soong, a descendant of Data's creator, Dr. Noonien Soong. In Season 2, he portrayed yet another Soong ancestor, this time a 21st-century geneticist named Adam Soong. These appearances kept Spiner involved in the franchise without revisiting Data proper. Then came Picard Season 3, a full-circle moment. Marketed as a reunion of the entire Next Generation cast, the third season was a love letter to fans. As the story unfolded, Spiner returned, not just as Data, but as a hybrid of Data and his many android brothers. In the episode Surrender, Spiner's character, housed in a new golem body that aged naturally, integrated the memories and personalities of Data, Lore B4, and even Lal, his daughter. But one personality ultimately emerged as dominant: Data. This new version of Data had all the emotional depth and human-like experiences he'd previously aspired to. He had emotions, memories, and the ability to age. Most importantly, he was alive again, not in a simulation, not as a backup, but in a real, physical body. This was the second time Brent Spiner portrayed the original Data post-Nemesis, even if it came in a new form. Though a more evolved version, the core personality, mannerisms, and memories were unmistakably those of TNG's Data. He cracked jokes. He expressed love. He made peace with lore. He finally lived, and the audience welcomed him home. But why only twice? The reason Brent Spiner has played Data only twice since Nemesis boils down to a few factors, some artistic, some personal. 1. The aging dilemma. Spiner has long acknowledged that portraying an ageless android is a challenge for an actor whose face reflects the passage of time. Unlike humans, Data wasn't supposed to age. While CGI can de-age actors, it's expensive, time-consuming, and doesn't always deliver convincing results. Spiner didn't want to reduce the character to an uncanny valley version of himself. 2. The power of finality. Spiner is a writer as well as an actor, and he respects storytelling structure. Data's death in Nemesis was crafted to be meaningful. Bringing him back without cause would cheapen that impact. Spiner only agreed to return when the story justified it, as with the simulated farewell in Season 1 and the emotional rebirth in Season 3. 3. Exploring other Soongs. Playing the many descendants of Dr. Soong allowed Spiner to stay part of the Star Trek world while stretching his creative muscles. From the morally gray Alton to the sinister Adam, these roles provided new challenges and didn't rely on nostalgia alone. It was a clever compromise. Keep Spiner involved without undoing Data's legacy prematurely. The emotional impact of his returns. What makes Spiner's two Data appearances post-Nemesis so powerful is the emotional restraint and reverence behind them. Neither moment was gimmicky. Instead, they honored the character's journey and treated his legacy with respect. In Picard Season 1, Data's final wish to die with dignity mirrored Spiner's original hesitation to return. In Season 3, Data's resurrection didn't undo his death, it recontextualized it. The Data we see is a synthesis, a matured form, with closure baked into every interaction. These appearances hit harder precisely because they are rare. Brent Spiner's legacy beyond Data. It's worth noting that Spiner's involvement in Star Trek isn't limited to acting. He co-wrote the novel fan fiction, a memoir inspired by true events, blending satire and sci-fi. He's also made voice appearances in Star Trek, Lower Decks, and other Trek media, and remains active in conventions and franchise discussions. But the pull of Data is inescapable. For millions, Spiner is Data, and vice versa. The limited but powerful nature of his two returns after Nemesis has preserved that connection, rather than diluting it through overuse. A farewell that became a beginning. Brent Spiner once said he wouldn't play Data again, and for nearly 2 decades, he stayed true to that. But when the time was right, and the story demanded it, he returned. Twice. Once to die again,